Welcome to JTOL, Just Thinking Out Loud, where everyday discussion for everyday people are spoken out loud. Now here's your host, Sonia Green.
What's up, everybody? Hello, and welcome to JTOL TV Talk, where I am your host, Sonia Green, also known as Hot Sauce. So I just wanted to welcome you all back to JTOL TV. I know we've been showing movies and showing different things. I hope you guys enjoy the Lucille Ball show. I did not know Lucille Ball was just that funny. She's a funny woman. Andy Griffin. We've been showing a lot of old good stuff that you and your kids can sit and enjoy together. So again, welcome to JTOL TV Talk. I'm gonna take these off because it's reflecting, and I don't like all that reflection. And again, welcome. Please, if you have a moment, can you share, like, send it out? I think it's such a very important subject that we're talking about. Is the healing for our soul series. And I have a very special dear guest, dear friend, dear sister. Love her family. Mama can cook some banana pudding. I'm gonna have to put that bug in her ear. I bun the banana pudding. She's like, don't. We was over Mama's house one day. Mama said, hey, take this banana pudding. And she's like, well, you can't have it all. I'm like, what kind of sister you want to take the banana pudding she gave me? Well, we shared. So anyway, I want to introduce to some and present to others Dr. Terra DeFoe. Hey sis, what up though?
Hey,
How
what's
you
happening?
doing?
What's happening? Yeah, that
What's
banana pudding is something else, ain't it?
No. What it do, what it do. So I invited you on because you were very instrumental, one of many that were instrumental in the passing of my son. It's almost coming up to 2 years, and it's very ironic. I never thought. I just scheduled. I didn't even think about what day it was, and it's just happened to be around this time. And so I think it's very good that we don't talk about this enough. We always say what you don't tell nobody about your grieving. You don't tell anybody about trauma. You don't tell anyone about loss, because we really don't know how to deal with it. We think we're gonna pray it away, right? We think we're gonna pray it away and it's gonna be miraculously gone. And I must say, for some people it does work, but for many it has not. Because excuse me, because in this country, excuse me, y'all, there are 17.3 million Americans who suffer just depression. So
Absolutely.
depression, and also, can you imagine just in the mental illness family within itself, what people are going through because they are afraid to come forward to say, listen, I'm having problems. I hear these voices in my head. I'm grieving. My heart is hurting. I feel lost. I feel hopelessness. And I know during my uh, time with my losing of my son, I'm just now, my brain went into a traumatic, I just couldn't remember nothing. And I'm just starting to remember things after almost 2 years. I mean, I can go on, and talk about the experiences I felt, but I want to talk about this last one. Uh, all of a sudden, my body just kicked in this funk. I couldn't even express it. I was like, what is wrong with me? Which is normally not, if any of you all know my character, and I couldn't get out of it. And when I realized that June 1st is the day that's coming up on my son's death, I was like, oh, even though in my mind I'm not thinking about it, but my body or somewhere in my DNA it has stored this memory and went into this place itself. So I decided I'm getting away. I'm taking these days off and I'm leaving town to try to replace those memories with that. And also too, sis, if you want to, I just throwing something out here. Also too, um, is I found my son. So to me, it was different if someone called and told me. than comparing to me finding him and trying to resuscitate him back to life. But anyway, I just want to tell you that's why this is very dear to me, because within the church itself, we don't even know how to deal with mental health. We just call him what we should say, girl, that's just Uncle Lou. That's just Miss Daisy.
Absolutely.
So can you just tell us something about yourself? Tell us who you are. Tell us, tell us who you are. Just tell us about yourself, and then try and comment on some of those things we talked about that I just shared.
Well, one, I want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come on today. And as I said, I commend you for taking this moment. Even though you had it pre-planned, but taking this moment to help others through a moment that's difficult for you. So you are now taking something that's difficult for you, and you're sowing into the lives of others to help them find a way so that it doesn't have to be as hard, or for those who are experiencing it to understand what is actually happening. So I truly commend you for that. Well, my name is Dr. Terra DeFoe. I am the author of three books. The first one is Saving the Best Days for Last, where I talk about how I got caught in the female entertainment industry and how God got me out. The second book is You Never Walk Alone. And that book talks about how God did not leave us here to handle our problems alone. Sometimes we try to, mainly as women, they call us independent women. We try to work things out on our own when God is like, hey, I've given you all of the resources to work out everything that you need. You have to tap into them. And You Never Walk Alone is that book. The last book is called The Father, the Son, and the Holy Husband. And I think that one I'm probably need security on afterwards. But it's to talk about how women, pick mates, whether a husband or someone that they're dating, a male companion, in the image of their father. And if their father relationship was not a healthy one, then it normally will show up in a marriage or a relationship with the opposite sex. So right now I serve as the senior advisor to Mayor Mike Duggan. I have the pleasure of working with pretty much every place of worship in the city of Detroit, and helping them, through not only the mayor initiatives, but to also kind of put out some issues that they may have in their community and things that they want to do or see in their community. So I have the pleasure of wearing multiple hats, but ministry is always number one. So when we talk about trauma, loss, and grief, trauma is the emotional response to a terrible event or a series of terrible events, a car accident, a crime. For those who have been in floods due to the weather, a natural disaster is a traumatic experience for people. It's the result from exposure or series of events that are emotionally disturbing or life-threatening. So if just from that conversation or that paragraph, I'm sure somebody can look back over their life and point out at least two. I'll be brave enough to say at least 5 traumatic experiences that you may have experienced from childhood to present. Unfortunately, domestic violence being, something that is a ongoing traumatic experience for some. Just this past weekend here in Detroit, or in Southfield, we saw a very traumatic domestic violence play out in the news. And, unfortunately, 2 children are now left without their parents. And so when we're talking about trauma, loss, and grief, when you talk about loss isn't always about death. The loss can be a loss of a job. During COVID, some people had to move to other states to find employment. So when a person left their area or their community in which they know how to go to the grocery store, they know the neighbor down the street, they know how to walk to school, and now you move into a whole new community that you have to find friends and learn people all over again, that's a loss. um for people who are coming out of COVID, and finding their way back to, as I say, the bright light. There's a lot of things that we lost during COVID. We lost people, we lost relationships, we lost being able to communicate face to face with individuals. And so a lot of people, mainly our elder population, for those who are living in nursing homes, they were, they couldn't even see their loved ones. People had to, talk to their mom or see their dad through a window at a nursing home. And so when we talk about loss, it can go across a wide variety of things. So grief is that place that our emotions is now taking us. We talk about depression. You mentioned depression, and depression is tricky. The Bible talks about, so let me go back. So when we're, as believers, we're taught, to take our cares, cast our cares on him because he cares for us. The Bible talks about being anxious. Do not be anxious. Do not worry about tomorrow. The Bible talks about those things because God knew when those things get in our spirit, what they do to us. And I'm sure that you all know of someone who has worried, who are a chronic worrier. Like, they worry about everything. They're worried about the horse that is on the farm. They're worried about the whales that's in the ocean. They're just constant worrying about something. Well, it takes some time to get there, and 9 times out of 10, you can see where a person has arrived to that place. So when we're talking about trauma, loss, and grief, we have to acknowledge that we're even having the emotions that we're feeling. Sometimes in the African American community, in the Black community, we're taught not to express our feelings. We're taught, men are taught not to express their feelings. Don't be a sissy. You don't cry in front of women, or you don't cry. Men don't cry at all. But yet, when you see men at their peak of anger and rage, where is that coming from? Because now they've held all of that in. So when we're talking about trauma, loss, and grief, I strongly recommend, if you have to find somebody to talk to, seek out somebody to talk to. There are Christian counselors that you can talk to. If you need to join a support group, various places of worship do host support groups. Check with your local county to see where support groups, everything is at our fingertips with the telephone. So type in, where can I find a trauma support or a grief and loss support group? And you'll find yourself being around people who understand what you're dealing with. As you said, Sister Sonia, you mentioned, you were just in this funk, and that happens. Memory loss, that happens. Like, we'll go fog, it'll go blank. We get irritated, really quick, and sometimes you do have to take a step back and say, okay, what's happening? Is there an anniversary date coming up? When my son passed away, there was a couple of dates that turned into anniversary days for us. There was the date of the initial phone call. It was the date that I last talked to him. And all of this happened in 1 week. There was the date of him having the heart surgery. Then there's the date of I'm getting the phone call that he's not showing signs of life, and for the family to come and pay their regards. And then there's the date of the official call to death, and then there's the date of his organ transplant surgery. So within 7 days, every day during that week of October, I have an anniversary date. And I had to learn, after the 3rd year, I really had to learn how to work through this date. Like, how do I work through this week? And so I started doing different things. I started going for runs. I started planning the trips, even if it was a quick getaway. If I needed to take some time off of work, I took the time off of work, even with my employer knowing why I was taking the time off of work. I spent time with family, and we all just, sat around and talked and laughed about the things that my son, always found himself into doing. And, and through those years, is 9 years this year, it began to get easier because I purposed in my heart that I was not going to allow the enemy to steal some time away from me that I've already have given. And God honored that. And he honored it by allowing me to take those moments for self-care for me. Not checking to see if everybody else was okay, but those self-care moments that I needed as his mother, and respecting the place that he held in other people's heart. You may want to do it for your mother, you may want to do it for your child, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's other people attached to it, but it's okay. You have to celebrate and honor the moment and what you have with that individual. So I strongly recommend that people find those self-care moments, going to the spa, book you a day at the spa. Well, Terra, I can't afford to do the spa. Okay. As you're preparing for that time, take the day off of work. And if it's sitting in the house watching a good movie or cooking that person's favorite meal, having that moment with yourself and that moment of how that person will want you to move forward. That's the most important thing that we have to look at and honor when it comes down to trauma, loss, and grief.
Wow, man, you like that was good. We just halfway through we ain't even halfway through the program, and I that was some good stuff that you
Thank
shared.
you.
Very, very good. I want to go back and talk about a couple of things, but we're gonna take a commercial break. We'll be right back here. I'm here with Dr. Terra DeFoe in our excuse me, Healing the Heart series, and we are talking about grief, loss, and trauma and support. How do we get that? What does it look like? What should we do? What does grief look like? Am I depressed? How do I know? I've been feeling this way for 10 years. It seemed normal to me. Is it normal? So we are talking about those things, and she shared some good stuff, how it's very interesting how our DNA will create a memory. It isn't amazing how bad God is so bad, how our DNA will create a memory, but we have to change it, right? Some memories we have to
Absolutely.
change. So listen, y'all, we'll be right back after this commercial break. I'll be right back. Thank you for watching JTL TV Talk with my special guest, Dr. Terra DeFoe. Hang in there, guys. We'll be right back.
If you're a woman over 30, it's time to mark that shit on 50% off. If you're at 50, Salvation Army.
Kevin Samuels had a bit of a shock factor to him.
This man was like literally online every day, like stirring up the pot, stirring up all these issues.
They made a conscious decision to participate and put their tantrums on display.
Kevin Samuels' first mainstream was him telling a woman, at least to my understanding, was him telling a woman that she's average at best.
He said that Black women are on the opposite side of the beauty spectrum. That's definitely not love.
I don't think Kevin Samuels hated Black women. I think Kevin Samuels hates the character that a lot of Black women have took on.
A lot of women are upset with the advice that Kevin Samuels gave because it required them to take a hard look at self.
Well, he's not saying nothing untrue, so why is she mad?
The backlash that Kevin Samuels portrayed, I don't understand it.
Kevin Samuels held men and women accountable, but the backlash from women was so harsh, particularly because men are more realistic and real with themselves than women are.
We've taught women in this country that they deserve to get the best of the best for doing absolutely nothing.
You want to basically be treated like a man in certain spaces, but also want us to view as a woman when it's convenient for you.
Steve Harvey
he didn't give it harshly.
Frankly, Ayala's approach is very similar to Kevin Samuels. It's just that she's a sister.
Because he's just like, nah, I'm gonna get real ragged with you and you gonna know like I'm about to drag you through the ring.
No, I definitely don't feel like Kevin Samuels wanted to help black men and women come together. I feel like he wanted to help himself in his own pockets.
Because of how he presented himself, the women that he had rubbed the wrong way, his death was almost a celebration for people.
There was absolutely a need for a voice of Kevin Samuels. Absolutely.
Kevin Samuels helped us. Thank you, Kevin Samuels.
Now, class, Mr. Tiger will show us how Kellogg's Sugar Frosted Flakes cereal starts out.
Is a flake field?
It's a cornfield. Kellogg's toast corn to golden flakes and adds a secret frosting. Helps keep them extra crunchy and delicious. It's part of your good breakfast and tastes.
I know, great! Sit down to breakfast with Tony, and you'll discover why it's great.
Mr. Tiger, you're wonderful.
Oh, shucks.
Hey, welcome back to JTOLTV Talk. Again, where I am your host, Sonia, also known as Hot Sauce with Dr. Terra DeFoe, and we're having a great conversation. Even just even the things that she shared, I can just feel a lot of weight lifting off of me. So she talked about how we deal, what grief looks like, what loss looks like, what trauma looks like. How your mama and them say, don't you tell what goes on in this house, don't you go see a counselor. And one of the things Terra was doing, Dr. Terra was doing, DeFoe was doing, I'm sorry, y'all, she's my friend, so like I gotta get that right. So Dr. DeFoe was sharing over probably last year until now, she had a series that she had presented to the church to help the church recognize depression, recognize grief, recognize loss, recognize trauma, and how to minister to those people. So can I just ask you something? What made you want to invest this in the church? How did you get this? I know it's a God thing, but how did you get this idea? What happened that you didn't see? Something you had to see that was not provided to cause you to want to institute this program?
Absolutely. So for years, working with the faith-based community, writing grants for their various programs, moving them around politically, it has always been a conversation that most people don't want to talk about. And it started with children. There are a lot of children who are underdiagnosed or overdiagnosed when it comes down to behavior issues. My son was emotionally impaired. And, by looking at him, you didn't tell. But there was times where he was constantly getting into trouble. He was constantly becoming a distraction in class, and a lot of things were happening. And then the conversation came down to, medication. Do we have to medicate him to get him to focus, to be able to, to pass, to get his assignments done. And, at first it was just like, medicate him. But then it was like, okay, look at the side effects to, this medication. And then to kind of find out there was a lot of children on Ritalin and other, mainly Black children on these medications, to get them through school. And when they weren't, making the grades, or they weren't, properly being handled in school, or given the proper resources in school, they of course fell behind. And so what we always say, the pipeline to prison, right here, if they're not by third grade, we'll be able to see what children are going to be, prison bound. And unfortunately, that was my son's, that was the testament of my son. He died while in prison for doing, he was due to do 6 years and he died 2 years in. And of course, didn't see that coming, wasn't expecting it. My son played football, ran track, played baseball, healthy, young man. And not one time did we see that, he had a heart issue that ultimately, unfortunately, led to his death. And so when I watched that happen, and then it came down to, adults in church who were sexually abused and not getting the proper counseling or the proper care after the event. And me, that is my testimony. I was unfortunately my first sexual assault was with my father at the age of 4, and it was a continuous thing. And when I got of age, or at least turned 12, 13, I, of course, started developing faster than my other friends. And of course, at church, it was, oh, she's fast, you better watch her, and I wound up getting pregnant at 15 with my son. But I watched how, these labels played a part into the direction that I took when I went into the female entertainment industry. And I watched a lot of my other friends and other young women and men take that same approach. And so here you have, innocent lives that were touched by somebody else's ill will or Satan of a mind. And now that has been introduced to them, and no one is there to tell that person or that young person whose innocence has been taken, this wasn't your fault. This is something that is for adults. You are loved, you are cared for. And that didn't happen. And right in, the church house, do you have a lot of these wounds that people, just want to turn their backs on or pull the blanket over and not address. And so now you have women who are, as they say in the church, dressed in a certain way and looking a certain way and acting a certain way. Well, ask why. Like, why is she doing that? If she wasn't doing it before, why is she taking on this position? Or why is this young man going in this direction? And those things really, just really caught my attention. And as I really started studying and praying about it, this was something, a ministry that God was birthing in me, because there are not a lot of voices that come out and talk about what happened to them. And then for me to share with my children, this is what happened to me. This is what, my teenage years was like. So that they're aware of what their mother went through, and in hopes that they don't follow, of course, in those same footsteps. But it's one of those conversations that, we are constantly, looking for people to cover us, and we're looking for people to help us. And in most cases, they're not equipped to help us. And that was something that I learned while working in the faith-based community. A lot of places are not just equipped to help with this issue. And so when I started the trauma-informed leaders training, it was for the pastors or the clergy leaders and their ministerial support staff. Because my place, or the way I looked at it, as if we can train the ministerial support staff, when members of the community or congregation members come to these leaders and elders, altar workers, whatever we're calling them, youth pastors and whatever, are they equipped to point people in the right directions? Do you have the resources in your church if someone wanted to commit suicide in service? Do you have a direct connect to someone from a crisis center? Do you have the number in your phone to a crisis center if you're out in the mall or you're somewhere and you have to now talk to someone who is actually experiencing this emotional meltdown? Do you have the resources to connect that person so that they can get the help that they need? And this was a blanket, mostly across the wave, was no. Places of worship are not equipped or do not have the resources, where some of the larger faith-based organizations, they may have, you know, officers, or they may have certain people who actually are members of their congregation. But even with that, you can't depend on that person. You have to be able to point an individual in the right direction. When it comes down to fires, you know, family, we see that all the time. Fires happen, families lose everything. You know, the Red Cross comes in and they help, but what about the mental state of a family, or the mental state of the children and the parents when they're sitting in the middle of I have nothing? And that is why we started the trauma informed training through the City of Detroit Department of Health. And after the trainings, individuals will receive a certificate. And we're actually getting ready to start those trainings back up because, you know, I thank God that those who did attend, they not only use the resources for themselves, but they are now bringing other people to the class to say, hey, you know, my friend want to get trained, you know, because we want to be a community that's equipped.
That's those classes were dope, y'all. Listen, I'm getting ready to pull a couple of people on there. They were talking about some things. I was like, man, we need to talk about this on JTOL. It was just really, really dope. I really commend you
Absolutely.
for doing that. It was just so powerful, and I think it's so important. We have to realize that the Bible says Jesus, He's given us everything to life and godliness. And sometimes you have to say, what's in your hand, Moses? And sometimes what's in your hand, Moses, are counselors and therapists that you can talk to, you know, and they're not saying, well, Thessalonians 2:3. We don't need to hear that. That if that was the case, I wouldn't have needed all this. Not saying that it doesn't work. I don't want anybody to think that I don't think the Bible
Absolutely.
is efficient for, and will fill all needs. But sometimes we need to talk to somebody, and so, you know, somebody who's not, who's what do we call it? Don't have a relationship to us, so we can get an honest opinion and an honest voice and help us shape and change some things about us. So I really, really love those classes. I learned a lot.
Yes.
Because I had, go ahead,
And
sis.
one thing that we, you know, so, you know, for all disclosure purposes, I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a licensed counselor. I am a peer support facilitator, and I am also a trauma recovery coach. And I love that I have that, right? I love that I am a trauma recovery coach. Like, how does trauma recovery and coaching go all together? And sometimes you need, you know, if you look at a coach, if you look at a basketball coach, for anybody that played sports, when I played basketball, my coach was there to teach me technique, and he was teaching me how to win and win or get to the finish line. And sometimes we need that coach. We need that person that I understand what you're feeling, that can be right there with you, but also coach you through the next steps so that you don't get in that place that we call the rabbit hole, and you're just now stuck in that place and you can't get out. So I just want to make sure that we disclose all of those things, but it doesn't take away the experience and what we all have begun to do to make sure that not only are we teaching our community, but we're teaching our community how to live. We're teaching our community how to take the word of God, apply it to what you're dealing with. The Bible talks about, you know, we don't serve a God that doesn't understand our pain. He totally understands our pain. And he's also told us to get up from the pain. Sometimes you have to push your way through the pain. Sometimes you have to preach your way through the pain. Sometimes you have to teach your way through the pain. You have to write your way through the pain. You have to run, but whatever you do, you have to do it with that pain. And when you do it, here's the interesting part. When you do it, there is somebody sitting back watching. How did they do it? And they're watching you do it. And they're watching you learn how to get up out the rabbit hole. They're watching you and they're looking at how you're responding. So when it happens to them, they have somebody else that they can point to say, if that person did it, I can do it too. If Sister Sonia went through that, I can do it too. It may not be the same story, but it's the same situation. I can get through it too. And so that's what matters. When God puts us all together, we are to have teachable moments that we are able to teach one another the experiences that we went through to help the next person get out of that rabbit hole.
Boom. That was good. Let me tell y'all what she did to me, y'all. So just in case, I want to let y'all know something. The reason I'm so hard in politics, I wasn't even thinking about politics. She started dragging me along, and I'm like, I got this bug.
It's
in me. It gets in me. And so that's why y'all see me going hard about politics, is because she started this in me. But I also want to tell you this thing. She had this yoga, I don't know what you call it, yoga clinic. It was part of her healing process.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all something. Y'all can play with yoga if you want to. That bad boy was hard. I couldn't wait. I was like, I'm so tired. I can't wait till this thing. Yeah, it's slow, but it wears your body down. I felt great. And I love God. Like, I hated going. How do you love it and hate it at the same time? So it was great.
And you know, and for some people, you know, yoga may not be your thing. Okay, well, replace it with going to go for a walk. Replace it with turning the TVs off, putting the cell phones in another room. Sometimes just lay flat on the floor and allow those thoughts to come, acknowledge them, and then push them. Start teaching your mind how to push them out. I love yoga. It has a couple of benefits that I enjoy. If I don't agree with something that the instructor says, I replace it with a scripture. I replace it with something that, you know, that is comfortable for me. But it's the beauty of, you know, people coming together who are looking for ways to heal. And that's the key beauty of it. Ways to heal. I need a way to heal not only my body, but my mind. And sometimes we carry so much stress. We carry it in our shoulders. We carry that stress in our lower backs. We carry that stress in our stomachs. And that is not what God intended for us to do. We're supposed to be relaxed. You know, the shoulders are supposed to be strong for other things, not for carrying trauma. And our lower backs, you know, you watch people how they walk, you know, bent over, you know, that could be clearly an indication that there are some traumatic trapped experiences happening in that person's body, and it needs to be released. So I enjoy trauma. I mean, I enjoy yoga, and when we get ready to start them back up, I can't wait. As May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'm sure you're probably going to be seeing a lot of different things taking place this month for individuals to start, you know, kind of processing themselves through, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Let me tell y'all something. I was tired. I felt like I worked 10 hours at Chrysler. I came home and I felt good. Came home, went to bed, felt good the next day. So
yes.
But I just been, you know, one thing, but it really helped me because I couldn't relax. My shoulders were hard as steel, and my muscles had tensed up. I couldn't. My muscles are just starting to relax, where I can't even do certain things with my legs like I used to, because of all the stress and trauma that happened during my son's passing And I didn't know, everybody, when they look at people, everybody expect you to be strong. You're strong, you can handle this, the super saint. And I just wasn't that. I wasn't that at all.
And
I'm
it's
wrong.
okay. And it's okay. And that's one of the things that and not to cut you off, but that is one of the things that, just makes my stomach turn when I hear people say it, be strong, be strong. Why? My son passed. Like, why do who do I have to be strong for? And we say things without really understanding what we're telling somebody else to do. So you're telling me to be strong and not cry or not feel the hurt and the pain that I no longer have my child with me. You're telling me to ignore my feelings. Like you're telling me to ignore that I had a whole human being growing inside of me, and God allowed me to bring that person into the world, and this has now happened. And so you're telling me to flush all of my feelings down the toilet and be strong. Why? I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be strong. And we have to really be mindful of those things that we're telling people in those moments. I'm sorry, I had to talk about that, because it's like that's the first thing we say is be strong. You're his mother. Who do you have to be strong for? That was your child. So yeah.
Amen, sis. I'm with you. I've learned a lot in this process. So listen, we're going to take our last commercial break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some more support, some more coping things that we can do. They call it replacement theory. It's not replacement theory, but just replacing those bad things. I don't want to say they're bad, but those hurtful things, those things that cause us to fall, as you have stated, in the rabbit hole. And what does the rabbit hole look like? I'm gonna share some with you when we get back. Hey guys, thank y'all for rocking with us on JTOLTV Talk with my special guest, Dr. Terra DeFoe. And we are talking about Healing for the Soul series, where this particular one is grief, loss, and trauma support. And I forgot to make that disclosure. I'm so glad you did that. She is not a licensed counselor, psychiatrist, or what's the other one? Therapist. Yeah, so she is a coach in trauma support. I think that's what you said, right? And so and peer support. And even what she shared with me, it really helped me, because we'll talk about all this when we get. I want to drop these commercials and then we'll be right back. Thank you for watching. Listen, share this. Somebody is going through these things right now, and she's telling us how to recognize it, and then how to replace those thoughts or things, and how to come out the rabbit hole, right?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Hello, my name is Diane Kelly. I'm the founder and director of Felsher Tutoring Services. We offer tutoring services for medical assistant. Here is what we do.
Kelly, we are FTS certified.
Welcome back. How long has it been since your last confession?
Too long. Each wrong made right brings me a little closer to where I belong. One soul at a time.
I met someone special.
Special like mom?
Like, I'm ready for us to be a family. And I know you want that too. Yeah?
Yes.
Hello?
What is your confession?
I know what you've done, Christian.
Nicole, baby, is that you?
Please let me help you. Confess your sin or lose Nico.
Nico! Why are you doing this?
You have to make this right.
Sometimes I tell myself,
Confess, or he will pay the price.
I can save them. I can save them. One soul at a time.
Who are you? What do you want from me?
What is your confession?
Hey, what's up? I'm Coach E, the owner of Fit Habit Fitness and Supplements. Most of our clients come to us because they don't have time to get to the gym. They hate sharing equipment at the gym. They need more accountability. They need someone to prepare a meal plan and monitor their daily food intake. They hate doing cardio all day. They hate drinking shakes all day, and they want real food. They need to lose more than 50 pounds, have small children at home. They want not just a six-pack, but they want their life back. They want to build confidence, look great, but also feel great. They want to lose the weight and keep it off as a lifestyle change. Get off the high blood pressure medication, the list goes on. Our online training is a new and exciting way for me to offer cost-effective fitness and nutrition, life-changing transformation coaching for the entrepreneur who works from home, who needs an effective program without the limitations and expenses of the gym. Our coaching program can be utilized by anyone, anywhere, offering convenience, responsiveness, flexibility, and accountability. Best of all, I can empower my clients with more accountability and support than I ever could in person. So I want to talk to you today. Let's schedule a free consultation and goal assessment so I can see if you will be a great fit for our fitness and nutrition coaching program. Click the link below to get started today. Let's get fit. Peace.
Welcome back to JTOLTV Talk, where I am your host, Sonia Green, also known as Hot Sauce with Dr. Terra DeFoe. We are talking about grief, loss, and trauma support in the Healing the Soul series, which is great. So before we left off there, listen, guys, can you all please share? Can you please go to YouTube and like JTOL Productions, go to IG and like JTOL Productions. That's the least you can do. You don't have to watch. I prefer for you to watch, but at least like the show. I appreciate it. Go and like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And but so before we got off, we were having this discussion about just some of the coping mechanisms. So one of the things that when me and Dr. DeFoe was talking, and she said something which really blessed me. She said, I don't even know how we got into the subject, but whatever it was, she never said, tell me what happened to your son. We kind of just started talking about it, and she just let me talk. She didn't interrupt. She didn't say nothing. She didn't say, oh man. She didn't say one word. And when we got through, she said, I never knew that happened. I can't remember all the conversation, but it was very good to just talk about it and just have someone listen, or she didn't say, I'm going to pray for you, which it's nothing wrong with that. She didn't do any of those things. And sometimes people just need someone to listen to them, which we have a hard time to do. The Bible says be slow to speak and what? Quick to listen. And we do not do that very well. So can you just tell us some more of those type of coping? Really what I want to talk about is how can you tell? Some people have been in this thing, in this depression, in this rabbit hole for so many years. I know one of my sisters, she does Blanket of Love, and what she does, she invite mothers who lose their children. And I can recall one mother who came, she had been in this grieving place for about 5 or 6 years and couldn't even come out. She literally is going to grieve herself to death. And I'm like, where is the body of Christ to help her? Where, you know what I mean, sis? So absolutely. How can we know these symptoms? How should we handle that? And what should we do?
Well, everything is always, being, like you said, being prayerful and listening. And when you watch an individual, mainly after the loss of a child or a spouse, you can watch their behavior patterns, and you would know, from their behavior patterns, what is actually taking place. Women, she gained a lot of weight or she lost a lot of weight. And you know that, she wasn't out there exercising to have lost a lot of that weight. The hair falling out, um, just a lot of things are happening with an individual. And having the ability to approach someone, approach them in love, and approach them with, hey, how you doing, soft conversation, being creative, in your approach. Maybe send the person some flowers or send them a card. Let them know that you are thinking about them. Hey, you were on my mind today. I just want to let you know I was thinking about you. Drop a nice friendly card, and start building a way where you can talk to the person and find out, what is happening with them. Like Sister Sonia said, sometimes the person just want to talk, and no telling of the situation. It may have been a lot of drama around it. Someone may have gotten killed, and it was, because of something else, and or involved other people. You just never know all of what a person is holding in when they lose someone by death. And, I always tell people, my situation, for whatever reason, people start acting crazy at funerals. And that happened to me. And it was a lot of things that I couldn't say out of respect for the person. But they had no respect for me. But yet I'm holding people in regards. And so I held that in for years until I finally got to a place where God was like, you got to release that. It's going to kill you. And they're going to move on with their life. And you're going to be dead because you're holding on to this anger, or you're holding on to this conversation that you want to let them know how you felt during a moment that was hurtful. So every time that memory of those moments come, it comes with these other things. And so when you're approaching someone, and they, like I said, you watch their behavior change. Be prayerful how to approach them, but also be mindful. Be a human being. Be a human being with a heart, not trying to get in their business to know their business or anything like that, but having that conversation with them to help them move them along. Even if it's, going out for Saturday breakfast. A friend of mine, she and our routine was we would go out to Great Lakes Crossing, and we, do a little shopping, not even much. Sometimes it was just being able to walk around in a big area and look at clothes, or, eat up some pretzels or whatever the case was. But the drive time, we had a chance to talk, and we would do Saturday lunches. Sometimes she would pick me up, I would pick her up, and we would just go to lunch on Saturdays. And again, it was those things where she allowed me to be able to talk about the things and vent about those things that were truly hurting to me. And that is 9 times out of 10 what happens with people when they're grieving. They're having so many mixed emotions. And if they're, working, if their job requires them to focus, or if their job requires them to keep showing up, that means that every day they're pushing down more and more. They're swallowing that pill more and more to show up for other people. We talk about clergy leaders, clergy leaders who have lost a spouse or lost a child, and they get up, Sunday after Sunday and have to minister to everybody else. But who's ministering to them? So we have to really be mindful about other people's feelings, other people's emotions during certain, situations, because it could really be hard for individuals to just get out of the bed every day. The only thing that got me up out of the bed was I didn't want to be in the dark. So I had to get up because DTE still required their payment. My car note still had to be paid, and my cell phone bill still had to be paid. So I had to get up. I had to get up, and I had to get in the shower and tell myself we're going to get through the day. I had to do this day after day after day until some days I couldn't. And when I learned about that rabbit hole, when I learned about, even a thing of a rabbit hole, I started making plans for my anniversary dates. Like I said earlier, those anniversary dates, they're triggers. I had to make dates. I had to make plans for my triggers. I had to go out of town. I had to do a road trip. I had to go get my hair done. I had to go get a massage. I had to read a book. I had to color. There's a lot of therapeutic coloring books out here for adults and children. I had to go to painting, painting spots where I could, kind of just let my mind go and paint and be around other sisters who understood why I needed to do this, and everybody was very supportive. You have to find those ways to do something for you, because that burden, that heaviness can wear on your heart, and it can wear on your emotions. It can wear on your mental health and take you down a path that you were not equipped to go down. And we see that a lot in our community, where things have happened to people, and they unfortunately were not giving the best advice to help support them, or giving the best support through these situations. And no matter, what happens to an individual, car accident, suicide, a health disease, a loss is a loss. And we have to get to a place where we are acknowledging that loss has taken place. But at the same time, how can we replace that memory, that trauma moment, with a moment that will be helpful and happy, and something that we can continue to do as a family, and come together and have a lovable moment about a person that is no longer with us.
That's you pretty smart. I love hanging around you.
Why, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sis, that was so good. So we got about two and a half minutes. What I would like for you to do next is to tell us how we can find you, how we can about the mental health programs that you're about to start, and those things. So you got a minute to share with us.
So you can find me. I have a nonprofit organization called District for Change. That's District for FOR change.org. You can go to the website, drop me a comment, or, drop your information for us to give you a call back. I'm also on Facebook, Terra DeFoe, or Dr. Terra DeFoe on Facebook, Instagram. On Instagram, my tag is I am Terra DeFoe. But if nothing else, you can always Google Terra DeFoe and you'll be able to find me.
Ooh, look at this. We got one more second. So listen, I would like to thank my special guest, Dr. Terra DeFoe, my friend, my sister. We've been knowing each other a long time, and the same way you see us is the same way we are. We haven't changed. So,
yes.
So listen, sis, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're busy, especially with what you do to get up, and because you don't want to be in the dark. So we know what you do during that time, and then we know what they don't know. I know what you do after. So listen, and thank you so much. I'm gonna put you in the green room. Don't eat up all my food. I'll be right back. Thank you again. I love you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with us on JTOLTV Talk, where I'm your host, Sonia Green. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Listen, we got a coming up women prophets. We got men prophets. We got some more mental health things to talk about. So look, come on and join us. God bless you. See you next week.
Join us here next time on JTOL, Just Thinking Out Loud, where we ask and answer questions no one is willing to ask.